I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Today is Wednesday, uh, June 22nd, 2022. And today we typically talk about wealth building and health, wealth, interconnected, intertwined, inseparable. And we're going to be joined shortly by my friend, in fact, a relative of mine, Kenya McKnight, who heads the Black Women's Wealth Alliance. Until she gets on board here with us, Brenda. First of all, good afternoon. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Al McFarlane.
Good to see you as always every day. You know, we were talking before we went live about yesterday's show, and it was a wonderful program in that it was so raw and so emotional and so for real, as I say. We were surprised with the visit. I had sent the invitation to my friend, Maestre Yogi Sena, the capoeira master who used to live here in Minnesota, who moved back home to Bahia in Brazil. And he joined us in Brazil. He and I have been collaborating because we're cooking up a relationship that's going to be a regular presentation of what we call the Afro-descendiente world, Afro-descendants or Afro-Latino world. And the mission there is to connect with him in Brazil and people that he's associated with. I've had one meeting already through him with Afro-Brazilians who have returned to Lagos, Nigeria. So there's a group called the um, uh, Lagos Descendants, LD. I can't think of the full initial acronym for it now, but it's an association of Lagosians. They call them people in Lagos who are descendants of Africans who had been enslaved in Brazil and who found their way back to Nigeria, primarily to Lagos. And there's a community in Lagos that is Brazilian, and they have maintained the traditional religious symbols in Euro, and that the Yoruba had preserved as they came to the New World. And so it's a fascinating, relationship. But he was on yesterday and was talking about personal things that were gripping and heart wrenching. All in all, however, it reflected, Brenda, what I think is the uh, the reality of the presence of the Spirit that connects us all in our pain, in our suffering, but also in our joy. And I think that over the course of the hour, in my mind, a healing was afoot, a healing that allowed him to express his pain at his having to, he said, take his son the night before to a psychiatric hospital in Bahia. And as he talked about the fact that on several occasions uh, this week alone, his son, who's suffering schizophrenia, had attempted to take his own life. And that's what he was dealing with, and it was on his mind. And he had sent me a note saying he couldn't be on the program. He didn't tell me why. He just said, my son, dot, dot, dot. So I didn't know what that meant. But then when he called into the program, he cried. He cried and said, here's what happened. And it broke my heart. It touched my heart. I am so glad, Brenda, that you were on the call with me, as well as our friend Tito Wilson and our friend um, Pete Rhodes, and all of you just responded and sort of embraced him with an empathy and a caring and a compassion that was genuine, that was real, was palpable. And for that, I'm grateful. And for that, I say that there had to be, and there must be something healing in the fact that we are meeting like we are and having the conversations we are having. So, Brenda, thank you. That's my take on yesterday. What are your thoughts?
I just thought it was so powerful and I thought it was so respectful of the type of connections with so many communities around the world that you have touched. For him to be unashamed and willing to just touch your heart and be able to express the pain of his was just so powerful. It just was. And then you had three guests who put children first.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, the representative,
Hmm. I
having a
didn't mention
scholar.
her. That's right, exactly. I did mention her too. Yeah.
Yep. And
In fact, she opened the door to the conversation because she
right
talked about the fact that she had been suffering TBI, traumatic brain injury,
from a first grader
from a
who
first grader.
grew up
She's a
there,
teacher. Yeah, yeah,
but she didn't blame the kid.
right. And she didn't. She sure didn't.
Blamed all of the conditions that probably led to his pain too. And I
Hmm.
have, as a teacher, I have faced that, but I faced it with high schoolers. I had just established a type of relationship with my students that, she's not one to deal with. She's
Hmm.
on your side.
Hmm.
And we need more teachers to be on their side. So no, that was, I couldn't stop the tears. And I'm normally not a crier, and especially out in public, but
Hmm.
um, when he talked about what his son was suffering was as a result of an institution that was supposed to be healing him. And instead, they, they were put, didn't he say they put him in handcuffs?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And they told him the son and the dad that the son was the most violent human being they had ever seen, or something to that effect. He said, "How do you have the nerve to tell me that? How do you have the nerve, the gall, to say something like that to me and to my son, that you've never seen a human being with that is so violent?" I don't know what the story, the background is, but that's what he told us on the show yesterday. And
You know
it's
what?
just
It
true.
reminds me of the gall of Trump saying, I want 11,760 votes. I mean, boldness, like it reminds me of Professor um, El Khatib when he says, you have to understand it's a white supremacy doctrine
Hmm.
that has just been baked
Hmm.
into the fabric of America.
Hmm.
The people in Uvalde said there's no more America. No one in America would do to those babies what those police officers did. And this one father, Angel Garza,
Hmm.
raising his daughter, he was outside while she was being murdered.
Hmm.
48 minutes.
Hmm.
And they were on CBS this morning, and it was like, there is no more America. But there is. Those hearings are telling me there is. Oh my goodness, what a great picture with the American flag behind it.
He is just amazing. This is
Isn't he?
Representative Benny Thompson of Mississippi, who was chairing the House hearings on the January 6th insurrection. And I'm telling you, the hearings are powerful. And I think they are achieving, hopefully exceeding their intent, their mission. They don't have charging authority, so they recognize they do have the bully pulpit, and they do have the ability to tell the truth, to educate America about the depth and the intensity and the meanness with which certain people assaulted our democracy and assaulted our country, and attempted to, at the direction of Donald Trump, thwart the will of the majority, and in effect stage a coup to prevent the peaceful transfer of the presidency from Trump to President Joe Biden. And I have to just give kudos to Representative Thompson. And this is such a wonderful picture of him, because he's sitting there like an eagle, with intensity, managing, producing, orchestrating this uh, civics class for the nation and for the world. on what it means to tell the truth and to demand the truth. And you do it with a degree of just with integrity and with compassion at the same time, and with a sense of duty to the principle of the Constitution. What do you think? Did you see the sister? I don't have her name in a second, but she was the one yesterday who President Trump targeted, used her mother's name, I think, or her mother's name, 18 times
Yep.
in communication, trying to gin up people to go after this woman and her mother. And as a consequence, the mother's mother, the grandmother, uh, her home was visited by people saying they were coming to make a citizen's arrest of the mother and the granddaughter. The mother and the granddaughter were registrars who were election workers, and they've done that regularly over the years. But now they, because of President Trump's specific naming of them and accusing them through his own words and through the mouthpiece of Rudy Giuliani, made their lives unsafe. The mother was told by the FBI she should not stay home. And so she had to leave her house for 2 months, I believe. They said you have to at least leave till the hearings are over or something like that. I'm not sure what it was, but they had her leave. And so anyway, I'm disgusted and saddened by it, but I'm glad that this committee is bringing the discussion forward. What are your thoughts?
I think we need to give Liz Cheney her props.
Yep,
She,
absolutely.
her father was not of that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she has the utmost respect for her father, she has stood up among the hyenas. I mean, and done it well. I mean, now they don't agree. She was ready for the criminal charges. And, I understand they went back and forth, and he, finally convinced her, along with Merrick Garland, that that was not their role. Their role was to present the facts. And that's what they've done. I understand Thursdays is really going to be hot.
Mm.
But, it still doesn't change that much. Texas just passed a resolution that Biden did not win the election. So they're gun ho. They just are. One day
Unbelievable.
somebody's going to ask them, will you please admit that you are fearing the browning of America? And why isn't that those colors don't blend?
Hmm.
So, and I still stick with Liz Cheney's comment, Trump is going to be gone, but your disgrace will remain.
It's unbelievable. I'm loading up some other pictures to look at and talk
That
about.
is so great.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me show you a couple of more here. Let me show you one. I'm trying to get one more before we do. Let's see.
And people are really respecting him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's cool for Roy.
He's done a good job. He's doing a great job. He's actually probably traveling now, going from D.C. area, heading down to New Orleans for the annual meeting of the Black Press of America, the NNPA. I normally would go, but haven't traveled during COVID and not of a mind to travel for a while, as I mentioned to
COVID's
you.
still out there, Al. We have to
Yeah,
be careful at
gotta be
75.
careful.
Yeah.
If you got pre-existing conditions, I do. You have to be extra careful. So that's what I want to do. I want to be here a long, long time, and I'm going to be as careful
Well,
as I
look at
can.
Mama.
Yeah,
Got a good role model.
Yep. Try to stay here. Let me try to pull up a couple of more images here to look at, and I have to shut this screen down. That's a great picture. See how I load this other one up here. Just a second. Can you see that one? The new one? Oh, hold it. I got to share the screen again. Roy captured this picture, which I loaded up. You'll like it. Off of a monitor. He was having trouble getting into the actual hearing session at first. Somebody was had to get his credentials straight, but he was out in the lobby and he took a picture of the screen. But this is almost like an oil painting. Let me share this with you. I love this. Share screen. Here we go. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
You see it?
It does look like a painting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, looks like something that Siku
It's like an oil. Yeah.
Art Caldwell would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The,
it does. It
the
does.
depth of those guys' talent is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they have that, especially Charles, passing it down to two generations, that is just so admirable. And I mean, they are good. That does look like an oil painting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I love it. I think it's great.
That should be cover.
Well, I'm deciding right now which one, the one we just saw or this one. I like this one. The problem is it's horizontal and we need a vertical, but we can run a horizontal. But I think this is so powerful because of his face, all of the brow, furrowed brow, and
Beanie. I didn't
yeah,
even know who he was until this. I
yeah,
really didn't. I'm going to be honest, and I have just been blown away.
yeah, he's impressivo, impressive. Let me try to show one more picture here, if I can load it up. Let's see, where is it? Navigating several screens here at the same time. But thanks for hanging out with me on this, Brenda. This is kind of fun to take sort of a decompressed conversation where we have
After
time to just
yesterday,
let it flow. Yeah.
yeah, that was deep. I mean, I was impressed with everyone and the things that they were doing, but boy, Senna just, and how many more fathers would stand up the way he has? But they put him in handcuffs. That's just what really got me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm praying for his son and for Senna's strength.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't mention anything about the mother. He just said he raised those boys by himself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I added, I know I've raised two girls alone. Not easy.
Not easy, I'm sure.
Oh, especially when I had one on the tennis court, one on the track and basketball. Yeah. Pretty tough. And grading papers at the games. But love my students, still do.
I'm trying to get this one picture up here. Oh, here. Oh, this is a video. Let's try this. This is
You're having so much fun with this technology. You're like a kid in a candy store, Al McFarlane.
Yeah, there won't be sound, I don't think, but maybe there will be. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm. I felt so sorry for her. She can't go to the store.
So
I hear some of it.
Yeah, it's very faint. This is not plugged into the system, but I watched this. Bobby and I watched this, and we were, angry
Yeah,
at
I
what
got
she
mad.
described.
Yeah, I got mad.
Yeah, and Giuliani got on saying that he saw from the video that the mom and the daughter, both election, officials, right, registrars, counting votes and stuff, that he saw her passing what looked like a drive or a thumbnail drive, which is obviously where they had thousands of illegal votes to download into the computer.
The
And
other electors.
they asked her what was it he was talking about. And she said it was a ginger mint. is what her mom passed her, a mint, you know. And so that guy went somewhere that didn't make sense at all. Let me run that back to the beginning again.
He was
Yeah.
probably drunk the same way he was the
Yeah.
night he said they had no evidence.
Yeah. So interesting testimony.
She said she had gained 50 pounds.
Yeah, 60 pounds,
She
just
wanted to
anxiety.
change her name.
And how she felt so bad that she had caused her mother to be threatened, and she had
Yeah.
caused, by her wanting to do right, she'd caused her grandmother to be threatened and under threat by vigilante type people. My words, not hers, but just unbelievable. So let me stop sharing that one, and if I can find one more, I will.
Trying to think of who it was on CNN early this morning. John Dean.
Mhm.
And, um, he mentioned the fact that, did he say no? I'm trying to think of who was the one that said no to Nixon. But anyway, he said there was no way to compare the mentality of the Republicans today. These are not the same people. So there is another component to this type of hatred.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just hollering at the screen, "Browning in America." That's all there is. And I'm sorry, but you got some brown in you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's why Hitler committed suicide when he found out he had Jewish in him.
And that's something that's amazing. Yeah. Well, let me see if a note to if there's someone that's listening that'd like to join the program. We'd love to have you. Let me put the link to the program in the chat here, and we'd love to have a listener to join the conversation as well. Let me do that right now. Let's see. Word and
Al, I was remembering that textbook publisher we had, and he was a black guy, maybe a little bit younger than us. And they mentioned, how are you going to include in the textbooks about the insurrection? I wonder how they're going to handle the hearings.
Who was that? I mean, Troy Johnson?
No. I just sent you the article on
Okay.
Troy.
Okay.
But no, this was like a couple months back. And Yusuf had asked him, how are you going? Is it going to be inclusive? We were talking about how Black history had been excluded, and Jonathan was saying that it didn't start with slavery, and this type of thing. And so they asked how they were going to do. And I was sitting up there thinking when I was watching it yesterday, how do you explain this to the kids who already say that their vote doesn't count? And then they see how corrupt these people are and that people are still supporting them.
I just set a link to Vash Bodie, who had sent a note. I put his note on the screen there, so maybe he can join the program. He said they've begun to separate themselves, and now they have the Rhinos, which is Republicans in name only. What about the latest campaign ad from the Missouri Senate candidate calling for a rhino hunting session? Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's as blatant as it gets, and that ought to be viewed as a threat.
A domestic.
Yeah, terrorism. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the picture is haunting because it's like a silhouette, and he's got a rifle over his shoulder. And they have ostracized him about it, but he said it was freedom of speech.
Yeah. So Vash, if you get the link, sign on, jump in the program.
I don't know. But the God in us will not let us give up hope. And especially for our children. We just can't. We got to fight for them.
So I'm trying to think of what else. I was hoping that Kenya be on by now. She should be hopefully getting on board here. But if for some reason she can't link, we can come back to that later on as well. Um, what else is it's exciting for you, Brenda? What else is going on with you out there in New Mexico?
We have monsoon and flooding. So we've gone from
Fire.
2.5 million acres, and they have found out that the control fire was the government's fault. And now we're having monsoon and flooding. So please tell me about climate change. Yeah, but it's okay. I think we need to take the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it would have been a long hot summer had we not been getting the soaking.
Mm-hmm. I have been trying to read more about, and it's something that we should do in this program, is have discussions about our people as environmentalists. And one of the things, I don't know if you were ever on when I had Michael Chaney on. You know Michael Chaney, remember him? So Michael Chaney is a guy, a dreadlock guy, lives in North Minneapolis, who, in fact, let me send him a note right now, who is an environmentalist. He had a project called Project Sweetie Pie, and it helped people raise sweet potatoes. And there's Vash. Hey man, how you doing?
Hey, y'all.
Thank you for the comment. Thank you for jumping on here.
Yeah.
Michael Chaney had this project called Project Sweetie Pie that, at its core, tries to recast who we are as stewards of the environment. That's who we truly are. And to do that, he talked about creating gardens in the neighborhood.
I remember that in vacant lots.
Vacant lots.
I remember that.
And encouraging people to farm in their backyards and front yards inside their houses, and created a virtual movement. And one of the things I loved about him is, in one of my conversations with him, he described Plymouth Avenue, which is a street at the end of my block where I'm sitting now. My house is sitting just off Plymouth Avenue, down, and it goes from the golf course at the end of the city, just 4 blocks this way, about a mile and a half down to the Mississippi River. And that used to be the core of the Jewish neighborhood in North Minneapolis. The West End, where I am, was a Jewish neighborhood. The East End went through where the projects were back in the 30s and 40s, where everybody Black in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, lived there before they could live anywhere else. But and this is a street that was burned out in 1967 during the classic riots, right? We had, like they had in Kansas City and Detroit and other cities around the country. And it's been being redeveloped bit by bit, set vacant, boarded up, and then empty for years, almost 20 years. But he promoted creating gardens on the avenue and used the phrase that I love, and that is, he saw Plymouth Avenue as the Nile Valley of North Minneapolis.
I remember that.
And that thought just knocked me over. Nile Valley
represents article that.
Yeah. So I'll come back to him. Vash, how you doing? What's on your mind, man?
With that pretty smile.
Thank you all.
Prettiest smile.
Thanks. I had braces when I was older, and I would always tell my orthodontist, I said, one of these days after I get my retainer adjusted, I'm going to take you to a bar and I'm just going to sit facing the door and smile. And every time someone comes in and says, beautiful smile, I can just go, you did it. Thank you.
I didn't get them, but both of my daughters did. Yeah.
It's, I love it. I love using it. It gets me into a lot of trouble and gets me out of a lot of trouble. So I use it as much as I can.
I'm looking forward to working with you, Vash. I love your spirit. And there are just so many great people that have come through this program. Al and I were just talking yesterday. We had a tearjerker. So
I watched.
I'm, and I told him, I said, Al, we've been knowing each other all our lives. And I said, and I've been kind of stuck up, I'm not going to cry in public or whatever. That's not my I couldn't hold those tears. that man broke my heart, Vesh. And I think it was the fact of how his son was treated in a hospital,
All
like
of them.
prisoners,
Right.
in handcuffs,
Right.
and this boy is sick. But,
Right.
we're watching the the hearings. We know how cold-blooded people can be because they're not budging from what they hear. That's their
Well,
leader.
so
And
Brenda, think about that conversation, but I also think about sort of the other side of that, or it's the same side, Monday's program with the candidate for Hennepin County Attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
that was a great conversation as well. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
that one, Vash, but a woman who used to be in the prosecutor's office
The judge.
and who
Yeah.
became a judge, a black woman, and now she's resigned the bench for Hennepin County and running for the seat of the county, attorney, the prosecutor.
Martha. Yeah.
And interesting because, and she kind of said it, and I kind of said it, that her mission, her job is the law and to enforce the law and to be single-minded and focused. And the way I kind of heard her was to not be an excuse maker to our people when we fail each other or fail society, or to anybody, not just our people. But I know sometimes we feel this duplicity in how we operate in the world, but the duplicity that we feel is a reflection of society's duplicity towards us.
Mhm.
We know that the society says all men are created equal and endowed with the rights to da 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 da, but we know it's not so, and it's never been so for us. So while they, on the one hand, espouse these phenomenal, brilliant humanitarian ideals, the reality, the ugly underside of our experience in the West and in this country has shown that somebody's lying and been lying and continues to lie and lives in the lie and simply builds on the lie and fortifies the lie with an army and a navy and a police
Yes.
department, the patty rollers, right? And so we've been oppressed and victimized by that. We found a way to operate within the restraints of that hostile culture, but we have to figure out how to create some kind of governance among and between us that allows us to respect each other and honor each other in an environment that does not respect us at all, that places no value on our black and brown bodies and on our humanity, that had seen fit to marginalize and in a sense viscerate us even in their electoral representation strategy. So that's kind of, so I weigh that, the necessity of her focus on law and
And the Constitution.
the Constitution.
Protection of
Then
the
I weigh that against the examination of the failure of institutions that we looked at yesterday. So I don't know. What do you think? And it's never either or. Everything's always both and. That's what I think. But Vash, what do you think?
Well, I think that what she said is sort of what we're watching in these committee hearings, which is that we have people who are saying that they are upholding what the ideal of the law and the Constitution is supposed to be, and holding true to that when being asked to not do that. I think it was one of the reps from Georgia was saying that as they were disproving all of these different things that were being brought forward, like the case with the woman and her grandmother, no, the woman and her mother, with what turned out to be the mints and everyone leaving and coming back. So it wasn't like they were pushing people out to do the recount. Every single challenge that was brought forward was disproven. And he was saying that to an attorney friend or family member, saying, hey, this item disproven, that item disproven, going through an entire list. And still the attorney friend said, yeah, I understand that all that's been disproven, but in my heart, I still believe that they have cheated. So how do you change someone's heart? Because there's so many issues that we are dealing with right now that require us to get into people's hearts to make them change. And it starts with having people staying true to what the ideal of our laws are. in hopes of making them at least have to have some sort of repercussion. And we're seeing some of that. I mean, we're seeing some changes within policing because of people having cameras and videotaping. I mean, we've all grown up hearing the revolution will not be televised, but yet it is being videotaped and televised.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank God. If that tape hadn't been out there, we would be in a different spot than what we are now.
With so many of these things, cases and challenges
Yeah.
and accusations of cheating, etc., it's like, the videotape is helping, but then again, we still have to get back into how can we change the hearts of people so that they will see truth.
I love your comment referring to the last poets, and they made the comment the revolution will not be televised. That was Last Poets, right? That's who it was, I think.
I thought it was like,
Or Gil Scott.
yes, I thought so. I thought it
That's
was.
who it was.
Gil Scott Heron.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Revolution will not be televised.
Yeah,
It will
yeah, I
not
think
be
it was too.
televised.
Vash. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was thinking when Vash was talking, and Al always asks on every show, what's the solution?
Mhm.
What are we going to do? What are the next steps? Do we have a plan? Vash, I have a mentor, Sean Lewis. He's like 40 years old because, I'm writing about a city I've never visited. So I have Youssef Mgini and I have Sean, and I tell all Sean, I said, we need a blueprint. We need all of the nonprofits and we need all of our allies and whatever. And we just need the blueprint. And he said, Brenda, who's going to do the blueprint? I said, the mayor is. He said, Brenda, who's going to do the blueprint?
The blueprint.
But,
Right.
when Al and I was growing up, and I'll make this quick, Vash, our parents would not have stood up and not do anything about the violence in the communities.
Yes.
They wouldn't do anything about, they would stand up and say, nope. Al and I, we tell this story all the time about how we sat on the dance hall floor because our school was burned down by white flight. And we tell this story. Our parents, especially our mothers, were outside of the elementary school, a dilapidated building that we were forced to go to, and they were holding handmade signs. Our children deserve desks and books.
Right.
And they protested. And then from there, they went down to the Board of Education at 1211 McGee. We're not going to be quiet. You're going to stop mistreating our babies.
Yes.
And what, Al, the next year they started doing construction in DA Homes, named it after a civil rights leader. And we went on about our business and had one of the best educations you could ever imagine from some of the best teachers,
Our people.
all Black.
Yep.
Right.
Our people.
Right.
Yep.
Let me introduce you guys. You've met before, I think, Brenda, but this is Kenya.
I think I've written enough on her.
And
How are you?
Kenya, this is Vash Bodhi. Vash is going to be joining our team engineering these webcasts and podcasts and programs. We're trying to roll into a relationship, but he's doing this work already on the national level with his own programs called He Said, being webcast every week on Black Press USA. And he's doing innovative work, particularly around GLBTQIA. Is that the right way, Vash?
Okay, IA, good, because I've been like AI, like okay. So
well, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. So I'm expecting an education.
Right.
I'll put it in the private chat.
Okay.
In working with Vash and having him support this work as well. Kenya, Vash turns out to be a cousin of mine as well. I was looking to our family page one day and I saw Kenya on there. I said, called her, Kenya, what you doing on my family page? She said, what? What you on my family page? We didn't know it. And this was after, I think, Kenya, I had introduced you. You had asked me one time years ago if I would speak on your behalf, introducing you as a candidate for city council
Yeah.
for Fifth Ward, and you were a young Turk, firebrand. At that time, you still young and firebrand, but you continue to operate with that same confidence, fierceness.
Thank
Uh,
you.
then uh, you acted like you knew what you were doing because you did, and you still act that way. You know what you're doing, and you do what you know, and you have been relentless in bringing an advocacy for Black women in particular, but Black people in general, for economic wealth creation, wealth building. And so your organization is Black Women's Wealth Alliance. And you not only talk about it, but you walk the walk, you do the deal. Kenya, I can tell you guys, Vash and Brenda, uh, worked with me. He called me up one day and said, I got a meeting with somebody that's working on what's his name's campaign for president,
Oh, Mike Bloomberg.
Mike Bloomberg, right? And you should come check this out. And I did. And that meeting resulted in about $100,000 of advertising
Oh my
that came
goodness.
from Bloomberg's campaign to my business and creating that. So, that's what you call action. And that's what you
Right.
call delivering and making it happen. And she does that selflessly and consistently, makes the connection she values and encourages and supports Black business. So Kenya, once again, if I haven't said it enough, thanks. It was a good call for my business, a good call for me, the right thing to do, and you did it, and I thank you for it.
Absolutely. Such an honor. I think the idea is that when we grow in our power, in our influence, and the opportunities that we have in front of us, our job is to leverage it as much as possible for the greater good, to impact the change that we imagine in our community and that we know is necessary, right? And so I'm honored to, have been of support and value to you and certainly several other people, business owners, workers, policymakers, strategists, activists, everybody, out here on this landscape, trying to get the work done.
What's the latest with Black Women's Wealth Alliance? What's on your plate right now? And what do you want the community to join and support you in?
Yeah, so we're, right now in a big transition, as you know, June 30th. So we're approaching our 1 year anniversary of owning the 1200 West Broadway building, which we're so excited about. And the 1200 West Broadway building is located on Emerson and West Broadway. I'm sorry, Fremont and West Broadway. And we are renovating it into what I call Zara. Zara means to be radiant and flourish, and it will be a cultural wellness and retail space that will also have financial center for Black women inside of it. But we are really catering to the wellness entrepreneurs in our community for the incubator opportunities. So that means your massage therapists, your acupuncturists, your energy workers, your herbalists. We're going to have a flower shop, a floral shop. And that sort of a thing. We think our community really needs to be met with ancient and cultural healing, opportunities, outside of the general, health, go check at the doctor clinic. We need a kind of different check-in. And so we want to make sure that infrastructure exists internally in our community so we can access it, one, and two, having this women's business center or financial center as a way for Black folks to come and have direct access to information, tools, resources they need to build wealth, to understand what it is, how it works, how to get their own personal financials together, their business financials, and how to begin to imagine for the futures that we want to create. So we're going to build that center inside of Zara, as well as modify the food space we currently have. For those who may know Appetite for Change and Breaking Bread. So we're, home to them. The Zara is where they are currently located. And so we want to improve this food opportunities in our community, certainly keep them around, but expand it for more food entrepreneurs to be a part of Zara. So we're scheduled to break ground this time next year. So 2023, and raising money currently. We'll be out on the streets, doing more engagement work early fall. of this year, so folks have opportunity to learn. But we've already raised close to $7 million, and we need about 8.3 to get the renovation going. So we're excited. That's the latest thing or the biggest thing with us.
Are you building up on top of the building, or going to be just renovating the current structure? You've got your facelift already started because the Zura facelift is out there, right?
Yes,
Looks good.
yes.
It looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So upon acquiring the building, we did some immediate upgrades because, you know, the building has been in this
Yeah.
condition for 12
What
years.
was it before on that side? I can't remember what was done, where that was. Was that the Butter Roll Bakery, or what was there? No.
No, at Breaking Bread Cafe.
But on
So
the corner where the Zura part, that said that was Brick and Bread there?
so that part used to be, so this used to be, so this building was built in 1903, and it originally was a funeral morgue. So they, you know, would display caskets, sell them, have,
Okay.
you know, like the Estes, right? And
Yep.
do cremation and everything here on site.
Yep.
Then it became a child care center for pregnant teen moms, you know, for teen moms and those who are pregnant and have babies who are in the Minneapolis public schools. So it was a child care center. Then it became an incubator space for organization and businesses, which it currently is.
Okay.
And now we're changing it to its fourth iteration of Zara that will have wellness centered. So
great.
What is the meaning of Zara?
It is feminine in nature. So we want to, you know, gyrate the feminine energy in the planet. We think it needs a balance right now. So it's feminine in nature, but it means to be radiant and to flourish. And so we want to radiate cultural, ancient wellness, and we want our community to flourish. And so that is what drove the name. I think the last program we're working on right now is called the Black Prosperity on Corridors initiative, which we're very excited about. It's currently going. We have a big boot camp happening on the 25th of this month, this Saturday. So we have 80 businesses registered to attend. And this boot camp is really designed to help Black businesses, you know, get their core information they need around legal, business essentials, wealth building, customer service, accounting, and financial modeling. And so we have some great partners lined up for this boot camp. It's a 4-hour session this Saturday. And in addition to the Black Prosperity and Corridors boot camp, it is a grant that's also a part of it that will be issuing out to businesses across 3 corridors, West Broadway, Lake Street, East and West, and University Avenue. So our goal is to, you know, connect with the Black businesses who are on these corridors. We think they're very vital to our neighborhoods, to local economies, and we have to make sure that they can stay around. They have not been well supported through this pandemic, through the civil uprisings, through at any point outside of what they do for themselves. And so we created a collective identity that, you know, we're sharing across the corridors for them to connect and know that each other exists, a directory so that they understand, you know, how to connect with each other and share customers. And then also leadership opportunities for them to get together quarterly to connect, to, you know, convene and, you know, pretty much cultivate our Black economy and those who wanted to partake in it. In addition to the boot camp, in that we're offering grant support between $5,000 and $30,000 per business to provide some support for their operations. It's not a ton, but it's what, you know, we can do. And there's about 30 Black-owned businesses per corridor so far that we've identified. And we're specifically talking about historical African-American businesses who are direct descendants of enslaved Black folks of this land. That's who we're targeting. So that is the work that we're currently engaged in. And our boot camp is this Saturday, and our grants are, you know, already in motion. And we're excited about lifting up these businesses in these times and hopefully forever.
Well, hopefully one thing we can do and we want to do is continue to bring those businesses to this forum, to this platform. So it's a question of scheduling. And our objective for the Wednesday iteration of this program is to always talk about wealth creation, intergenerational wealth, entrepreneurship, and supporting our businesses and elevating the presence of our businesses. So we want to keep working with you, Kenya, to make sure that every week we ought to have 1 or 2 or 3 businesses here. And the goal is to come here and sell some products. Come here and let people know your door is open, your hours are, your product is, my prices are. Come by. I want to.
Absolutely.
I remember I was telling my daughter Batala a few days ago about. You won't remember this, but there was a guy in town called Lee Swearington, and Lee Swearington worked for. It was called Downtown Pontiac or Hanford Pontiac. It was on the corner of Washington Avenue and Hennepin, where Whole Foods is now. And so back in the late 60s, early 70s, Lee was one of the first and only Black persons working in a white car dealership. And he had an ad on KUXL radio. You don't remember KUXL because you wasn't here then. You might not have been born then, Kenya. I don't know. But it was a
I'm a
long time ago.
76er.
Okay. So, but Lee would be on the radio every day with the ad saying, "My name is Lee Swearington, and I want to sell you a car. My name is Lee Swearington, and I want to sell you a car." And everybody in town could say it. "My name is Lee Swearington, and I want to sell you a car." And
That's it.
so sometimes we get conflicted in our community because we use scripture incorrectly to say money is a problem. Having
Yes.
money is a problem. Wanting money is a problem. Stacking money is a problem. No, the problem is not having money. But we get confused and we end up challenging and accusing and shading each other, saying, "Oh, all they want to do is get some money. All they want to do is get rich." And as if there's a problem with being rich or with getting money or with paying your mortgage or with buying a car or sending your kids to school or paying taxes or building wealth in the community. So we've been
Yeah.
miseducated around
Absolutely.
the acquisition and the value and the necessity and the naturalness of our creating and enjoying, deploying wealth for the development of our families, our community, and therefore humanity. You know,
Right.
and I think Kenya, it says a lot. I appreciate you. I'm going to over time ask you to delve in to this idea of the feminization of the economy. And here, let me give you my immediate take on what you just said, what you're saying. My immediate take is that there is a valid critique of hierarchical structures that are driven by a system of patriarchy, and that the patriarchy fuels violence and intends to acquire and maintain control and power and manage a false system of scarcity that disadvantages the broad many of humanity for the benefit of the few. So it's a system that, through practice, process, and philosophy, tries to use, the Army and the Navy, use force, the police department, the patty rollers, to enrich and maintain the wealth of the few at the expense of the many, and create a thought system that makes that okay. And it's not. But the alternative to that was a system and a way of knowing that is African and it's in African antiquity, and it's called the Ma'at system. And the Ma'at sisters, in that theology or that history or mythology, however you want to call it, were symbolic of a commitment to excellence in agriculture, in business, in astronomy, in healing, in art and culture, uh, based on balance,
Yes.
knowledge generation, sharing of the knowledge, and of creating a system that the knowledge perpetuates itself by a plan for expanding access to it and use of it and appreciation of it.
We
And
are
that,
building on the momentum of existence, of
there we
life.
go. So that's what I hear you say.
Moderation and balance. And
Yeah. And
if
justice,
it was all feminine,
justice,
it would be wrong, right?
yeah, justice at the basis of it.
Yes.
I think that's the right way to go. That's where we're going. That's where we must go. And that's simply getting back to where we came from and where we were, our best and our truest selves. Vasha, what do you think?
I think that women govern differently than men. women have a tendency to look out for the all as opposed to just the few. And as we look to change society in general, we have to welcome in and look to an influx of the feminine in all of its forms that it is beginning to show up. And the fight that we see against women, from women's reproductive rights, against women earning an equal wage, and trying to legislate that. I'm even going to say even the recognition of trans women, because when you say trans, it could be trans men or trans women, but there's this gravitation toward the feminine that is coming in, and any affront to that, of keeping it away, is an affront to all of it. And it is being repackaged in ways of saying that that is a threat on every level. Mm-hmm. Increasing the feminine is a threat to the masculine, increasing, all of it. You can draw a line and see how it's being sort of politicized. And I agree with you, Kenya. We need more of it.
Well, I mean, it isn't at this point, life entering this earth has to come through the womb. Well, there's new ways now, right? But through the womb of the feminine, and it is beyond the physical. It is energy, right? It's energy that the earth needs.
Also energy, yes.
It's a balance of life, and we see that expressed through many forms of yes, trans women, but also just everything in life, from using softer colors, different. I mean, there's so many ways that it's showing up. And I think, and if everything was feminine, it'd be off balance, right? So I think it's about, really just keeping the balance, and it's not an anti-male thing, or men are extremely physical, right? And we'll need that. There's time and place and check and balances for it all. But for me, I think when I think about the level of grief, the level of, violence, the level of pain and things that exist in our community, right? All these reasons why we know, things are popping off, with massive shootings, the drug uses, I'm riding down Lindale and Broadway, and I just had to take a real hard look at the bus stop, because I always see people in there and I'm sure they're using drugs, but I actually really look this time. It was a bunch of babies, right? And in broad daylight. I mean, they just inside the bus shelter, and they, and I'm thinking, man, I mean, we need a lot of help. And so for me, while my company focuses on wealth education, business support services, financial assistance, and now incubator, spaces for entrepreneurs and workers, right? I know that I also share in the responsibility of providing infrastructure for wellness. So that the entrepreneurs who are in this spaces, have a way to directly serve our people. We want to walk through here and burn sage. We want people to be able to,
I do it every day.
Right.
We
have crystals, stones, we have a lot of our ancestors, energy, power, and medicines that they use that our people need access to. We've got to battle this energy in our community that's posing so much harm. So that's what I know I also share a responsibility in creating space for, which is about the preservation and expansion of our wealth too, because if the people can't be physically well, then you really can't build wealth. I mean, it's interconnected, because wealth is what? A set of resources. It isn't just a house, it isn't just, your 401k. And so it's an overall wellness of our people and how we live through time. We were an investment and are the assets of our ancestors, right? Their sacrifice and contributions, afforded us to be here today. What are we affording for tomorrow? And so that's the question I have to answer. And I'm responsible for making sure that what I do aligns with the future of how our people can be still here and in a well, be supported through our wellness to be here beyond tomorrow.
You've said that you've used the word responsible a number of times, and that is something that's extremely important. And it also ties back to something, Brenda, you were saying earlier, which is how you your family were able to get your school put together, and how things have changed, and we have so many of these other things going on. And it's mainly because there's a lack of responsibility that people feel to their community, um, really to themselves and to their families. And that's something that has to be addressed. When you talk about what is the game plan is to really instill a sense of community responsibility, because that is going to fuel so many of the different changes that we need to get people the wellness that they need, that gets people the wealth that they need, that gets people just the food and shelter that they need, being responsible for and responsible to one another.
And we grew up with that environment, Vash.
We
We had
did.
spiritual environment. We had our teachers, our principals. And you know what? I don't know if Al remembers, but we had two male teachers, Mr. Kane and Mr. Goodsill. And we looked up to them, especially for some of the kids. I mean, I had great parents, but some of the kids did not have fathers. And these two guys, 1957, they became so many young people's father figures. And we need that. We need more Black males, Hispanic males. We have to grow our own educators who have the background and the lived experience that we have had, our grandparents have had. We have to live that. I know we're out of time, but Kenya, I just want to mention one thing real quick. One of your entrepreneurs, when I was writing about the bee marketplace, she told Al and I about being in the Mall of America where her shop was. And I can't think of who it was because I wrote about so many of your entrepreneurs. But she said this white woman came in and she was looking at a shirt. And when she found out that she was the owner of this shop, she said, "Oh, you don't deserve to have a shop in the Mall of America." And I thought about it. Al, do you remember her story?
I remember the story. I
On
don't
the
remember the
first
name.
floor, Kenya, by Nordstrom's. And I thought about her when you said about wellness, because I said she probably went through a shock and she needed to have someone to talk about her trauma, because I was sitting up here saying, well, how dare her? But that's how bold we are in this environment. I just can't think of her name. But your clients, they were so impressive. I wanted to order everything. I'm not in a position to do that, but they were so impressive. And I congratulate you on B Marketplace. It's been fun writing about them.
Thank you for your contributions and work around that, for sure.
It's been great.
Brenda, your story reminds me of one of my own, and that is when I started Insight. We started off in North Minneapolis, but then we decided that we had to grow. The maxim was grow or die, right? So we grew from being just on the near north side to then we covered the entire North Minneapolis community from top to bottom, from the 394 or Highway 12 at the time up to city limits. And then we decided to take our paper into Northeast Minneapolis, which was an area like that Black people couldn't go in at the time early.
Like the plaza in Kansas City.
Right. And then we also moved it into South Minneapolis. And before I made the move into South Minneapolis, there was a white paper called the South Side News, I think. And, and this was a progressive, the so-called allies, right? And I said, look, man, I'm doing this, you're doing that. Why don't we merge or join together and create a big operation that can challenge, the weekly alternative publication and or the Star Tribune, the daily paper. What can we do to do that? and so the white guy said, because at that time I was printing 50,000 copies every week for North Minneapolis. I did expand my circulation to 100,000 weekly to cover 50,000 households in South Minneapolis. It was a bold move. It took me out because I couldn't sustain it. I ended up doing a bankruptcy after trying to make that move over several months. It wasn't sustainable. without the kind of collaboration I was proposing. But the thing I remember about it is that he said, you're in North Minneapolis. What makes you think that anybody white is interested in anything you got to say?
Mm-hmm.
And I said that was a prevailing attitude, not only for that progressive person in South Minneapolis, but certainly in the business community, in the political sphere. And the point is, they are willing to say, and they don't say it, but they mean it, that they don't believe they have to be accountable to us or account for our concerns, our thoughts, our energy, our presence. And most of all, it goes back to Justice Taney, I think. Nothing a black man says or do that a white man has to pay attention to. That's
Yep.
still the case. And so this is not a new thing. I see my friend Michael Cheney's trying to jump on the call as well. I know we're out of time. Kenya, can you hang out a few minutes more? Because this is a good conversation. Vash, can you hang out a few minutes more?
Sure.
And Kenya, you're muted. You have to unmute.
I got to jump in a staff meeting.
Okay. Listen, thank you for being here.
Kenya, nice seeing you.
But the main thing is that we
Seeing
want
you,
to
Vash.
set up so
Nice
that
talking to
every
you too.
Wednesday, somebody out of the alliance or
I
out
know.
of the neighborhoods is here talking about their business. Okay, we got a deal.
I got you. I just got an operations manager, so we're working on it.
There we go. All right.
I'll figure out how to get here and get the businesses here, though. But thank you all so
Kenya,
much.
thank you. Take care.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And then I want to introduce, if he can get on board here, Michael Cheney. I don't know, Michael, your devices, it says, are not working. I mentioned Michael Cheney, Brenda, and I called him up and said, jump on this call if you can. But somehow he's not able to. I can't bring him on because his devices are not working. Michael, I'll wait a couple more seconds. If you can get your devices to work, it'd be awesome. If not, we can do it next week. Michael Cheney, Vash, is an urban farmer and a pioneer, not only here, but nationally. I think he's done work internationally as well in promoting farming in the city. He's also a pioneer promoting energy and alternative and solar renewable energy strategies. And the reason I keep bringing him up is because he has embodied the idea of redefining who we are. Because in the old flow of things, certain things we would always say is white folks' business, not ours. Simply not true.
Yeah.
Food is our business. Energy is our business. Banking is our business. Home ownership, wealth is our business. And somehow Michael is one of the people like those of us here who take a sledgehammer to those illusions that try to reflect improperly who and what we are all about. And we have taken as I say, a hammer to destroy them, to break them up. And in doing so, allow our identity, our true identities to emerge and to flourish and to be in the light of day and to claim our right to do that. So, Michael, you probably hear me. I can't hear you. Not able to bring you on, but we want to bring you on this conversation, this space. Vash, I'm going to close out. Any comments, final thoughts, impressions, priorities, and promote your show again, if you would.
You can listen to me on He Said, streaming live Friday nights at 7 p.m. On the National Newspaper Publishers Association's YouTube channel. So if you're watching here on YouTube, you can find us here. Otherwise, you can check us out on Linktree, linktr.ee/he said, and you can find every platform that you might want to find about us. We do show clips, so you can always get a glimpse into what the show's all about to tease you and entice you to come and join us. We have a great time talking about news, political stories, as well as entertainment. If you can think about it and it affects your world, we are talking about it, and we want you to join our conversation.
And if we register, we'll get notices, right? We'll get the notices when you're going live?
Yes, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get notifications of when we go live. If you like us on Facebook, you'll be able to get our notifications. We are very active in our social media and our publication and publicity for our show, and come and join us. And Al, as far as this show, I can't wait to join you guys. It's a pleasure watching the show. You get my services for free because I'm doing all kinds of market research watching you.
And watching Brenda's tears, the old lady crying. One of my students said, "Be great, you didn't get on public," and I said I couldn't help it.
It was one of those shows where you could not help but just be completely drawn into someone's emotional journey, and it was such an extreme of what the show is supposed to be about that it just created so much more room for people to just come on board and really talk about whatever is on their mind. So it was a beautiful moment. It was a beautiful show for that.
And the fact that he wanted to connect to Al after saying, I might not be on the show, but felt the drive that this person understands.
Right.
It was a powerful moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it highlighted healthcare issues. Yeah. No, not at all. It highlighted healthcare issues.
It connected because it was all kid oriented.
Yes.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was powerful.
It really was. It truly was.
It was great.
So my goal, and Vashers, we want your help, is to have these tricontinental or multi-continental conversations. He was in Bahia, and last Saturday I was on a call with him. We were connected to Lagos, and so I was a guest on that show. I didn't record it, but I'm trying to establish contact with the originators of that conversation so that we have a general conversation between Lagos, Bahia, and Minneapolis and our country, talking about the Yoruba or African cultural experience. And then I've got another friend who's in Venezuela, who had been an ambassador to Mali and also to South Africa from Venezuela. He'd been an ambassador or a consulate here to the city of New Orleans for the country of Venezuela. He's Latino, Afro-Venezuelan, and he's a book publisher, author, media personality in Venezuela. So we're trying to set up a process where he's going to be a regular on one of these shows every day, or we'll do a new show. But he just came back from a presentation of his latest book at a conference on Afro-Latino writers in Barcelona. And so I'm trying to nurture a Barcelona collection, a Spanish collection connection, and a Spanish America Caribbean connection to have that diaspora conversation. And then independently and parallel to that, the English speakers, Nigeria, and our people in the Caribbean who have the Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Congolese points of origin and beyond. And of course, we've always had a relationship with the East African community because I'm active in the Somali community here. We want to nurture that. What's the point of it all? The point is to show that we are both connected and connectable globally, and that we can create commerce and relationships between ourselves that don't have to be approved by or go through Europe or Europeans, that we can ideate relationships and monetize them in ways that we grow based on our, as Kenya said, principles of integrity and of sharing and of knowledge building and of innovation, and that in doing so, we will be part of that process of decolonizing our minds, our bodies, and moving towards our authentic selves, our universal, global, best human selves. That's what I see. So that's where we're going. And thank you both. Thank you both.
Kind of a lot of layers, huh, Vash?
Well, it is. And I'm looking forward to the launch party convention because the food's going to be booming.
All right, guys. Take care.
The adventure. Have a good one. Good seeing you.
We'll see you.
Good seeing you both. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh,